Welcome to You with Intention. This is the show where we help you divinely design your life. I'm your host, Cassandra, and today we have Francis Naude and Asya Rose here with us again for our second monthly energy report, kicking off the energy for July. And for those of you who didn't join us in June, this is a fun conversation. Francis is a Reiki master and tarot reader, so she's going to pull some cards for us. Asya is an incredible astrologer, so she's going to, give us insights on like what are the astrological transits we need to look out for. Of course, the full moon, the new moon, anything we want to be aware of. And of course, you guys know me, so I'll just be chiming in here and there. And the intention is that this monthly report helps you just better energetically prepare yourself for the month ahead so that you can make it as expansive for your own personal growth as possible. So welcome, Francis and Asya. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having us. So excited to be
back. I'm excited to hear about July.
Yeah, so there are a lot of dates actually in July, which is why July is so action-packed. We start off with, there's a lot, first of all, there's our last big planetary shift that's happening in July of like not just a planet shifting signs, but switching elements. So it's going from Earth, grounded Earth, to like mutable air and adaptability and changeability, which we'll talk about a little bit further. And then there's also, in addition to the new moon and the full moon and, Uranus switching signs for the first time, we have a lot of retrogrades this month as well. So like Neptune is a planet that's moving retrograde in I don't know when this is going to air. I was going to say in 3 days, but on July 4th, literally on the 4th of July. And usually we have Neptune retrograding, Saturn retrograding, a Mercury retrograde this month, Chiron retrograding. So there's a lot of retrograde. Pluto is retrograding right now too. So generally planets like to go direct. They like to move forward. As humans, we also like to go direct and move forward. And, we set goals for ourselves, the majority of us, and we like to move forward towards them. Planets don't necessarily like to move backwards because they're forced to stay in like a pause and reflective state and reflective period and an integration period. So certain planets get frustrated when they're forced to not move forward and stay reflective. So there's a little bit of like a dichotomy in the energy this month where like so much is changing with this big Uranian shift, but at the same time, all the other planets are like, whoa, we're going to take a step back and kind of like stay in a pause and process and kind of sit here and integrate. So there's going to be like a lot of back and forth a little bit. And I can elaborate further, but I don't know if you want to start pulling a card now or.
I think, yes. I think that's why I was called to ask you, because before we go into like dates and timing, because this is kind of a full month of, as you said, kind of like push-pull, I would like to check in like on that in general and kind of how to like best optimize, understand, like move through that energy, because at least in my experience, I like feel that. I'm like, like, what am I doing? And that I always afterwards, I'm like, oh, something's retrograde. Okay, that makes sense. But I think having the information and a little bit of guidance around that prior, we can maybe not get ahead of it, but just like feel well equipped to move through that. So let's pull a card on that, card or two. So knowing that we have, as I love what you said, it sounded really magical, this Uranian shift, as well as all of these retrogrades, spirit and the light and the highest for everyone here who is listening. What would you like us to know about this before we check in specifically on timing? Okay, so we have a single card and two cards. So first card, okay, beautiful. Wow, wow, wow. Oh, okay, beautiful cards. So the first card that we have is the Seven of Pentacles. This card came up as an individual card, and really what is being shared here, especially for those of us who love the forward movement, who love the motivation, maybe this is not the month to lean into the go, go, go. Seven of Pentacles is very much about patience, nurturing the seeds you have planted, and knowing that even if you're not able to like reap a harvest right now, like reap a reward right now. There's still effort and there's still, you know, like beautiful things growing. We just might not be able to like see them right now. So 7 of Pentacles is encouraging patience. And I love that with retrogrades, because if we're not in an energy of forward movement, sometimes we try to force it. And what can happen with this is like sometimes we make decisions that aren't aligned. So then we have to backtrack and resolve and fix and change paths. Sometimes we just like, no matter how hard we try, we're like, I can't break through this. I'm just hitting this wall. I'm hitting this wall. And so this month, it's not don't do anything. And it's not that we let retrogrades like stop us from living our lives or, you know, like setting goals or moving forward in our goals. But it is very much about like move at your own pace and trust the timing. And if you feel like you should move slower or you feel like you should take a pause, take the pause, especially if you're in the northern hemisphere and some southern hemisphere. Summer is like fun, play, enjoyment. So maybe this is leaning more into like the Cancerian energy and like personal life and nurturing your feelings. And if you're in the southern hemisphere, you know, winter, we're in that very like cozy, nurturing time. So it feels like 7 of Pentacles is coming up to encourage us to practice patience. And like, if you feel like you're having to force something, maybe pause there and like refocus on self for a little while. And then part 2 of that is like checking in with the seeds that you've planted. Where can you nurture without being like, I need to, you know, reap this reward? Instead, it's like, no, I'm just going to water this seed a little bit. So that's part 1. And then part 2 with
I
these.
just want to stop you for a second, just for the people that are just listening. So Frances is pulling from her own beautiful tarot deck, and I just love the images. And so I always just think it's also important, like intuitively, to share like the image. So the image from her deck, which is called the Four Noble Tarot deck, it's beautiful and like gold and white, and I'm obsessed with it. But it's different images than like the classic, you know, Rider-Waite deck. So it's the image of like a watering pot pouring into the soil, and then you have like the pentacles kind of like floating in the air, so to speak. And just like what she was saying, like when I think about we're like in Cancer season, right? With that energy of watering plus the retrogrades, just to echo a little bit what Frances was saying too, it's like thinking, you know, we just came off this, our last like new moon in Cancer, which was a lot of really thinking about like what's going to make me feel good, what's going to nourish me when I'm thinking about my goals, when I'm thinking of my intentions. And so we've planted those seeds hopefully at the end of June, right? And now it's like, okay, let's refine them and like see, okay, I planted that thing. Maybe I like, you know, let's say maybe this one of the seeds you planted was like starting a podcast or like writing a book or something like that. And then like this like energy right now could be a time to really refine, like, am I going about that in a nourishing way, right? Am I like reflecting on like the pathway forward from the seeds that you probably just planted in June? Okay, sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted, because I know a lot of people are listening and not seeing, to like vocalize that.
I love it. No, thank you. I love it. I love it so much. And yes, to all of that. And I think to add to that, even though, yes, we are in that Cancerian energy, Pentacles are also innately like logic and finances, like very tangible things. So even if you are someone who's like a doer and really wants to get into that energy, you can focus more on like the seeds you've planted, maybe from a practical sense. So like, is this schedule working for me? Is this budget working for me? Like, is my, you know, like my daily to-do list or my time, like, are those things working for me? And maybe making like little micro adjustments there as well to encourage you to have that patience and knowing seeds take time to grow. So that was the part 1. Part 2 of this, you know, kind of retrograde-y month is 6 of Cups, which I'll thank you, Cass, for the prompt. I will describe this card. It's a bunch of cups with little flowers in them, and then 2 rabbits holding one of them up. And we also have the 10 of Pentacles, which is 10 pentacles, obviously, with this really beautiful plant and then some butterflies as well as caterpillars. So this image of, you know, transformation. These cards together are coming through to actually remind you, and again, very summer and winter energy, depending on how you're leaning into it, or what the season is for you. Six of Cups is about the inner child and it's about play. And then 10 of Pentacles is about family and abundance. So two things coming up here. Part one is, where can we actually just like lean into the playfulness of life? I know that there is a lot going on globally right now. And for a lot of us, it's tough to kind of be like, oh, well, that's happening over here, but I'm just going to go like be la-di-da over here. And of course, we have to care about other people and global events and being good citizens and good humans. And we have to protect our peace so that we can show up in our lives every day. And so this is really about leaning into that. What makes you happy? What makes you laugh? What do you already have that you can practice grateful for, like practice gratitude for? What abundance is already there? And really leaning into that, because that's going to help you slow down. That's going to help you practice presence, is just like being where you are and leaning into the joys of life. And even little joys, a cup of tea, going outside, watching a bird. Like, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Part two of these cards, though, is also a little bit more on the personal development side of checking in with your inner child, because there might be stagnation here. What is that triggering? Like, what is the wounding? Is it, I'm not good enough? They're doing better than me. I'm failing. I can't make enough money. I'm never going to have enough. All of these like really big wounds that come up, and we think they're these big adult themes, but actually a lot of them are really rooted in that inner child of wanting love, acceptance, safety, which oftentimes we think is success, but really it is just safety. And like wanting to feel accepted, and really finding our place here. So if you're finding yourself feeling really triggered by maybe a slower energy or an opposing energy, I encourage you, based on these cards, to kind of check in with like, what old stories, what old wounds are getting triggered, particularly around your idea of success and abundance, which may be linked to, again, acceptance or love or connection. And then of course, money in and of itself, and like what your life actually looks and feels like, and really taking the time to be like, okay, what's hurting, and spending some time with that. Again, instead of trying to just push through it and hit those goals, it's not that we don't do anything there, but it's we're being kind of presented with an opportunity for this healing that then hopefully come August, I don't know, Asya, maybe you can give us a little sneak peek on August. But hopefully come August, or when these retrogrades end, we've kind of like done that really sticky work in the wounding, in the play, in the nurturing, and then we can move. So I think there's really a big theme here of like, take the time that we're given, enjoy what you can in life. If you're feeling triggered, face it, like work to do what you need to do to heal it, therapists, friends, healers, journaling, whatever it is that you do, so that when we're in that forward moving energy, we are actually like really well equipped to move through that.
Love that. Love that. All right. So then what's the astrology like? I'd say like early in the month.
Well, so the first retrograde we have, and I don't know if we're going to have time to go through all of them, but the first one is Neptune. And the reason why this one is important is because normally Neptune is a planet that causes like fogginess and like it brings you like it's a planet of dreams and fantasy and possibility, and but it's also the planet of like illusions and disillusionment and like falling for potential in situations and not necessarily reality. So normally when this planet is moving forward, there's a lot of fogginess and lack of clarity. This is the only planet that we actually like when he retrogrades, because when he is in a pause, he's not able to cause as much fog. So you actually tend to see things more clearly during this type of retrograde versus others. So it's like the veil is lifted more.
And when is that?
July 4th.
Okay, that's the 4th. Nice.
Starting the 4th, and it's going to start happening for several months. So I imagine that on the July 4th, a lot of things are going to be illuminated and revealed in really, really big ways for a lot of people. And then 3 days later, we have this big planetary shift that I briefly mentioned of Uranus, or Uranus, however you choose to pronounce this planet, switching signs and switching elements. And what's really important to understand about that's happening on July 7th, in case I didn't say that yet. This is a planet of unexpected things, unpredictable things, shock, surprise, freedom, rebellion, revolution, liberation. It's almost like wherever it's happening globally, we're going to feel this on a global scale and a political scale. And then individually, we're going to feel this on like wherever we've personally had shackles on us in our life. Now there's going to be like a new area of our life where we're going to want to like liberate ourselves and be like, okay, now I need to, you know, really get out there. And what's interesting is this planet has previously been in the sign of Taurus since 2018. So for those of you who follow your charts and do know your personal birth charts, wherever you've had Taurus in your chart, the energy has probably been a little bit erratic, unstable, ups, downs, left turns, right turns, unstable, like unpredictable, right? Like highs, lows, like this planet, I always say, you don't really know what you're going to get with him. Like even take astrology out of it and just talk astronomy, even the way this planet orbits the sun is different than all the other planets. It's a rebel planet. Right? It's like, you don't know what you're going to get next with him. So keep in mind, we're trying to predict an unpredictable planet. So like all the planets orbit horizontally. This planet goes up and down, side to side, left and right. It's like, you don't know what I'm going to do next. You think I'm going to go left? I'm going to go right. You think I'm going to go up? I'm going to go down. So for people like me who are natural control freaks, this is a little bit uncomfortable to deal with this planet, right? Now he's switching signs and he's switching elements. He's going from Taurus, which is a fixed, grounded, it's fixed earth. It's like the tree that is rooted and grounded in the soil, in the ground. It is not moving anywhere, right? That is Taurus. That's why Taurians are known as like being a little bit stubborn and bullheaded, because it's like that tree is not going, right? That tree is not moving anywhere, right? Like you try thinking about moving a bull. That's like, I'm going to move at my own pace. So we have a planet that likes to rebel and likes to move and likes to change things up, that's been forced to sit in a fixed earth sign where it hasn't been able to like move the way it's wanted to move. Right? Now it's moving into Gemini, which is, Cass, you know you have a very Gemini child, slightly chaotic. For those of you who are Geminis, I'm sorry, right? Slightly chaotic.
Lovably chaotic.
Right, lovably chaotic.
I have a Gemini child too. So
okay. Oh, there you go, Francis. You get it. So Gemini is also duality, two sides to the coin, constantly changing its mind. Like, oh, maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. So let's connect the dots here, right? We have this planet of unpredictability, rebellion, freedom, liberation, unexpected things, moving into a sign that is mutable air. The wind goes wherever the wind flows. Not fixed earth where it's rooted and grounded and it can't quite move the way it wants to. It's like, so Uranus is going to come in here and be like, ooh, I get to have fun here now. I get to really like do this, then do that, do this, do that. So for people who like things in order and like to know everything, this is going to be a little bit, I'm trying to say this in a nice way, slightly, maybe a little bit destabilizing and a little bit uncomfortable, because we're moving into an energy where things may shift very quickly. And the issue with this, or I'm trying to use better words here, challenge here with this is that just when you think like the shift is here for good, because it's Gemini, it may change its mind in a week. And then it may change its mind again in another week. And then so people who like to plan ahead for things, this may be like a new type of energy that we're dealing with, that you may be like, well, if I'm trying to make long-term goals, like I thought this was happening 2 weeks later, now something else is happening. And then 2 weeks later, now something else is happening. So suddenly we're going to be moving into like lots of changes, but the changes may not necessarily be long-term changes. They may switch up at a moment's notice. So the key this month is the more adaptable you can be, the better off you will be able to handle what we're about to step into.
And we're stepping into it for 8 years, right?
Well, it's going to be, so technically this planet is going to be in the sign from November 7th. I'm sorry, I misspoke there. From July 7th to November 7th. So we're going to get kind of a preview or a taste of this. Then this planet will go retrograde and move backwards into the sign it's been in for a while. So the reason why this year is so chaotic for a lot of us or uncomfortable for a lot of us is because there's a lot of in and out with a lot of the planets. They're trying out new signs, new elements, new energies, and then they're going back to the old signs, the old elements, the old energies. Then they're going back to the new and going back to the old. So like even through some of these new experiences, it's not like they're going to be fully solidified yet. 2026 is really the year of solidification when things move into the new and then they stay in the new. But this year, there's still a lot of back and forth of trying new things, but then going back to the old to tie up old things and to tie up loose ends in the old energies. So again, just because these are the shifts now doesn't mean they may necessarily stay here long term. Did I answer your question? I feel like I'm not sure if I did.
But then how long? Because I know you just said it was 8 years in.
It's almost like we're getting a preview of the longer transit that's starting next year. Okay. So the preview period is July 7th to November 7th. And then next year it's going to move back into this energy in April and stay there for April 2026 and then stay there long term until May 2033.
Okay.
So around 7.5 years. So we're getting a taste of it this year, but it'll really be active even more so next year.
Cool.
My question as a non-astrology buff, but someone who loves astrology, in case there's anyone listening who's like me, for this month then of July, is it fair to say that based on the guidance of tarot and the astrology that's happening, that because things are a little bit more erratic, we should be like kind of actively slowing down a little bit? Or what would the take be on that in terms of, goals and big decisions or things? Like obviously sometimes you have to sign a contract or a lease or whatever, but if there is, like, should we be creating space if possible? What would your take be on that?
Yeah, I think if you're taking impulsive action, and I think I've said this like last month and other times when I've had like calls with Cass and stuff, if you're taking impulsive action, it may not be the right thing because things may change very quickly. If you're taking aligned action or intuitive action, then it's okay to take the action. Like, where is the action coming from? And for me as an astrologer, because I know what's coming, it was very interesting to see you talk so much about money in your reading. Because Taurus rules, a lot of people think that Taurus rules money, but Taurus rules values and commerce. Gemini actually rules coin and money. So a lot of the shifts we're going to start seeing in this new cycle is shifts in currency. Like collectively, more so in the US because of and we're not going to talk politics, but like the United States astrology. So the last time one of the times that Uranus was in Gemini was when the United States dollar was created. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of the shifts in currency are also going to start showing up. Maybe things like digital currency is going to be more prevalent and active, and things like that are going to start to be more on the forefront. So I just think, like, when you're talking about the tarot aligning with the astrology, it's so interesting to me that you mentioned money a few times and coins without even realizing like some of these shifts. So what I'm saying is, before you're making impulsive decisions with things like money or stocks, because people may feel called to do these things this month because of some of the shifts they're going to start to see, I would say, like, make sure it's actually aligning and you're not just doing it impulsively.
Okay. So taking time, creating time.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. And then we move on to this full moon in Capricorn on July 10th. And so we're like, also, I think with Capricorn kind of taking stock, which tracks with everything we've talked about thus far, of our structures, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what are the structures and the systems, both like in our personal lives and collectively, right, that are working for us and are no longer working for us, and, coming so quickly kind of after that Uranus shift, right? Yeah. Also thinking, okay, well, if this energy is shifting, then kind of what structures might need to shift, what structures might need to die or be released in order to inhabit this new energy. And just from like, just off the cuff, what comes through for me too is like, if we're, like you were saying, like if we're moving into this kind of, ungrounding windy energy, right? Then it's like, okay, that's like a different structure that's needed, right? Like when you're putting up like a tent, metaphorically, right? And it's like a peaceful night and there's like no weather and whatnot, you're like, okay, you can kind of get away with some things, right? You can get away with kind of like just like being like, I'm going to MacGyver this and it'll be fine. And
Right.
then all of a sudden, like when the wind
I don't
is,
need to make sure like this is really in the ground,
yeah,
right?
like I got to make sure this structure is really in the ground. I got to make sure that this structure is going to be able to withhold all different kinds of weather, right? What's your take on that, Ash?
Well, I think that's spot on. And that's why I said I think the more adaptable we can be, the better. Like the changes don't always have to be bad changes. Change is not always bad,
No.
right? It's just that what we've been used to for so many years, that's where some of the shifts are going to happen. And keep in mind, Uranus is a planet of liberation. So wherever it's coming into your life, it really wants to liberate you from something. Right? So if like for somebody, if this has been happening in the area of their chart, in their around money or relationships or career or family or home, whatever it is, and suddenly you're like, I've really felt like I've been limited here and I don't really know what to do, and now all of a sudden there's this supportive energy to be like, okay, well, now you can liberate yourself, now you can like speak your mind, because Gemini is about communication, right? Speaking your mind. Now you can like, now there's an energy that's supporting you of like using your voice in a bigger way if you need to. So it doesn't
Yeah.
have
I
to
also
always be so scary.
No, no. And I
Yeah.
also think it's like also like we talk about, it's like the mindset of like going into an energy, right? That changes it. And like I think an interesting like metaphor that just came up is like, since postpartum, like kind of getting back into like the swing of things or whatnot, it's my energy is a little bit more mutable in that way of like, I'm going to try a few different things and kind of like see how this flows and like, how does this fit? And I think when you're going into something like that with a little bit more like, we're testing and we're trying and we're exploring and this is not forever and this might change, but like, let's see how it goes right now. The structure that you create, right, is different than when you're going into something saying like, okay, like now I'm starting this new job and these are my permanent hours and
These
this
are
is
my expectations and that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
everything's going to be. And so I think, we have this perfect, like the lead up with this like Cancer new moon that was like, okay, let's think what are we aiming for that's nourishing us, that feels good, that's aligned. And then the full moon in Cap comes in and says, okay, well, now that we know where we're aiming and we're going to probably, throw some spaghetti at the wall to get there, right? With the energy, how do I create a structure that supports me in being flexible, right? And that's like a different structure that we're creating. So I feel like the beginning of this, and it's so funny that all this is happening on, because like on a side note, like personally, I've just been like obsessed with the concept of like sacred structure. It's been like my personal little project right now, that I've just been focusing on so much because, and maybe I wasn't even like, I'm too, right now wrapped up in like mom stuff to even like be as into what is going on in the astrology. But of course it like lines up perfectly because it's like creating a structure that allows for that flow. And I think sometimes when we, as like a self-help personal growth community, think of structure, we think of this like very kind of like masculine, like I have to wake up at 5 a.m. and I have to do this, 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 and this. And then like I have to do, and like has to be all boom, boom, boom. But it's also like, I feel like the beginning of this month and the Cap new moon is really saying like, okay, like, well, what's the structure that works for you? What are like old ideas of structure that are no longer working for you, that like need to crumble, that need to die? And then what are the like new pillars that are gonna emerge and solidify? And when I think about full moons, I think about not just releasing, but also like blooming or solidifying or like coming into form. So I also think it's an opportunity for us to look at what are the things that maybe we've almost like organically been doing that we can like now like put the nail in a little bit and say, wow, like what really works for me is, you know, after I get like my son ready and all of that, and then I like, he's good and I have time for me, is then giving myself some time to like do my meditation or journal or whatnot, right? And even having like, be like, wow, it's kind of like what was naturally happening, right? So how can I like then solidify that? That actually is part of a structure that holds me because it gets to be flexible. And maybe it's just the way you look at it is a little differently. Instead of saying, this has to be my journaling time, it's like, no, this is like 15 minutes or 30 minutes where I get to do whatever I need that day, right? And if what I need is a walk, then great. If what I need is a journal, great. If what I need is like to EFT tap myself, great. And have that flexibility.
It's interesting because I just got like an analogy while you were talking, and maybe because you're a chef, but it's almost like you've been like you know, baking, like you can't really, you have to stick with the formula in baking, because if you don't have the exact right measurements, like it won't, the bread won't rise, or you know, the sugar will be off in the cake or whatever it is, like there will be a hole in the middle and or whatever. But it's almost like you're switching from being a baker where like everything has to be very exact, which is the energy we've been in, to now becoming a chef, going away from baking and just being more just cooking, where you're just like opening your pantry and being like, what do I have in here? I'm just going to throw a bunch of stuff together. That's very much like going from Taurus to Gemini, going from like this rigid baking of like, no, I need these exact ingredients. I need this exact like measurement. I need this exact thing because this is the only way this cake is going to be able to be made. Into, well, now I'm just going to cook for fun, and I'm just going to like throw some pasta and some tomatoes and whatever else I have in my fridge and some artichokes and whatever. And I'm just going to like whip something up because like that's just what I have.
Oh, I love this. I feel like I'm going to thrive in this energy. This is like my natural.
So interesting that I was talking to you and I was getting this like insane, this like analogy download of a chef. And I was like, I don't like to cook. So I was like, why am I thinking about cooking?
You know, it's so funny that you said it. We should go on to the second half of the month. But literally this morning during my little me time, one of the things I did was I wrote out like kind of like a meal plan for myself. But like what I do when I write a meal plan, it is very much in that kind of structure where it's like a more flexible. Like for instance, if it was like for breakfast, it'll be like a smoothie, right? And so I can put whatever I want in that smoothie, but I just know like there's some sort of smoothie with protein that's like happening for breakfast, and like whatever we have around is fine, or whatever like fruits or, you know, I'm in the mood for. And then like same thing with like lunch. I'm like, it's always like salad with protein, but it's like flexible. Like it could be anything within that thing. So it gives me structure, because if I don't have structure, then I'm thinking too much about what I'm going to make for lunch, and it's not productive for me. But it's not like suffocating structure that like if a girlfriend wants to like go out to lunch, or if like they don't have my usual whatever, or if I have to Uber eat something, I can still keep my structure with that flexibility. So funny. So funny. Okay. So what's the second half of the month?
So then we have another retrograde, Saturn's retrograding, and then we have our Mercury retrograde that's starting on July 18th, and July 18th until August 11th. And Mercury retrogrades are known for causing miscommunications, misunderstandings, delays, especially with like technology and things like that. Which, you know, I always tell people if things are not clear, like I always tell my clients, like, during a retrograde, there are times to, especially with Mercury retrogrades, there are times to pause, review, reflect, edit. Like there are times to tweak, not necessarily times to move forward on things, right? Like we've been saying this entire call. And because it's Mercury is the planet of communication. So if you're getting frustrated because like stuff has changed in the beginning of the month, and then you want to like move forward with the changes, but now there's delays happening, or now like you've reached out to people and they're not getting back to you, and you're like, this person said they didn't get my email, like it got lost in the inbox somewhere in the ethers of the internet or whatever. Like don't, like Francis said earlier, don't push things right now. Step back and like let things transpire the way they need to transpire, because throughout some of these shifts that we're going to be experiencing, again, it doesn't mean that everything is changing that way for good. So maybe the fact that that person didn't get that email that day is actually a blessing in disguise, because a week later you might be like, oh, you know what? I've actually changed my mind. I don't even want to do that anymore. This is like goes along with the whole adaptability piece of just being more adaptable and with the flow. And just because you had planned on sending somebody that email and they didn't get it doesn't mean that they were necessarily supposed to get it or not supposed to get it. And I'm spending a lot of time talking about email because I feel like it's going to be related to a lot of tech stuff next month. So I just feel like a lot of people are going to be expecting certain things with technology, and there may be some delays with tech issues, as Mercury retrogrades are notoriously known for.
And what about Saturn? Because I feel like Saturn is a more interesting retrograde.
Yeah, that one's starting on July 13th. And Saturn is very much a disciplinarian planet. He's very much about teaching us lessons, even if we don't want to learn them. And also about structure, ironically or not so ironically, right? Like he's very focused on discipline, effort, like wherever he sits in our chart at any given point in time, he's like, all right, it's time to take this area of your life seriously. It's time to add discipline here. It's time to like come up with a plan and have more structure and more effort, continuous effort. Where we spent a lot of time talking about Jupiter last month, where Jupiter brings expansion and ease. Saturn, and it makes you don't have to work as hard for things when Jupiter's there. Saturn makes you sometimes feel like you have to work a little bit harder for the same result. So because he's going backwards and he's in a pause, this is going to be the time to review the structure, like you were saying, Cass, to review the disciplinary things that you've already done in this area of your life and think, okay, is the structure still working for me? Do I need to pivot? Maybe my structure was that I got up at 5 a.m. every morning. Now I'm reviewing and saying, actually now I need an extra hour of sleep. Now I'll be getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning instead. So it's not about stopping the structure. It's about, again, tweaking it and reviewing it and seeing what's working, what isn't working, and what do you need to pivot here.
And what sign is it retrograding?
Aries. It's retrograding in Aries.
So whatever Aries is in your chart to look at.
Yeah. And then we start Leo season at the end of the month, which is a nice, like, fiery icing on the cake to everything else that's going on because it's a fire sign. And Leo season starts on the 22nd, and then we have a new moon in Leo on the 24th. And as you guys know, new moons are all about new beginnings, fresh starts, new initiations. And Leo is a sign that is highly, highly creative, highly self-expressive, and it's also the lion. It's about being brave. So the theme at the end of the month, there's going to be a lot of activity. The Mercury retrograde is happening in Leo, in sign of Leo. Then we have Leo season, a new moon in Leo. There's a lot more activity in Leo towards the end of the month. So throughout all the changes leading into mid and end of July, where there may have been like an initial impulse to make a change, and then a fear of, well, what if I make the wrong change? And what if the change then changes? And then I don't know what to do. What if something else pivots here? Leo season is going to remind us, like, where are we not being brave in our own life? And we need to be.
Juicy. Juicy.
And for those of you who want to know in your personal chart, you want to see where Leo is in your personal chart. So it's kind of this dichotomy energy of like, okay, things are changing. I want to take action. Maybe it's not the right time to take action. Well, but I know I need to take action, but I'm afraid. I don't know if I should. And then Leo season is going to bring it. Okay, like where can you go in and get your bravery back and get like some of that fire back so that when it's time to move forward, you're not afraid to do so.
Frances, should we pull some cards around this energy?
Yes, I'm listening, and the intuitive in me has lots to share, but I think where I want to focus right now, kind of what's coming through, is actually like around full moon and then around new moon, and like where to focus during those times. But something that I really want to remind that came up before, that again, it's like the healer side is, please, please, please don't forget the 6 of Cups, 10 of Pentacles guidance around healing that inner child, or like the wounding or the triggers that are coming up. Because I think that, again, the healer side is like, it's so easy to bypass and just skip over that. But I think that we are being given an opportunity right now to actually like face, heal, move forward with that. And maybe that is going to require some bravery as well, like coming into that Leo energy. But I think doing that work this month in July, it's going to help you actually muster up the bravery that is going to be like required, as Asya is saying, come August. And if we're not doing that work now, I think it's just going to be, it's not like, you know, you're going to miss the boat. You can do healing at any time you want to, but it is like we're kind of being given that time right now, and it's like, let's optimize it. And I think if we are actually doing that work, come these opportunities or changes or situations, we're going to be like, oh wait, I already did that super sticky stuff around this wound or trigger. Now I'm going to like bet on myself. I'm going to trust myself. I'm going to be able to muster up that courage to do whatever the thing is. So I just wanted to bring that up again, because like a zoomed out perspective, I think that that's kind of like the inner work. Like we have so much going on in like the outer world, right? Like truly like the planets and then the politics and then our lives. But the inner stuff, if we ignore that, it's going to make the rest of it really tricky. So I just wanted to remind.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think when you're going into that Leo energy, it's like the difference between like someone that's like famous because they didn't feel acknowledged as a kid, right? Versus someone that's famous because they're like really living their dharma and like in their art or in their like profession. And so I think like absolutely like taking that time earlier in this month to like do that inner healing, do that work, it's going to make it so that when you get to that new moon in Leo and you're like taking that courageous step and being in the spotlight, let's say energetically a little bit more, that the thing you're doing is like truly aligned with your soul's path and not something that maybe you're doing from that kind of like wounded child energy, which is so crucial. Because I do think that like, I agree with you, like we can always heal. Obviously they're not like missing the boat, but also it does like, I think we've all done that in different ways, right? Where we let our wounded child like set our intentions, right? And then we have to like go back and like retract, because like when your wounded child is setting your intentions, even if they manifest, they're not really going to fulfill you, right? Because so I think that's a great cautionary alert.
Yeah, we want to manifest from a place of alignment. And so it's so important. But yeah, let's check in. So just like guidance around full moon, and then we'll do guidance around new moon as well. So just a moment while I pull the cards. Full moon. Asha, remind me that date?
The full moon is on July 10th.
July 10th.
In Capricorn.
Okay. Full moon. New moon is on, you said the 22nd?
Leo season starts in 22nd. The new moon is July 24th. That's a new moon in Leo.
So this will be kind of like those couple days, that kind of little pocket right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So for now, and probably complete, but we'll see, one card for each. So full moon, kind of energy, focus. Okay, I love this. It goes in alignment with a lot of what came through. We have the Knight of Cups. For those of you listening, it is a girl with this like beautiful shield. It has like a sun and clouds on it. She is riding a dolphin who is jumping out of the water, and she has her cup in the hand.
Cass being the Pisces loves the dolphin.
I mean, this card is a vibe. I love it.
She's like, yeah, let's go. With it though, there is, speaking of this wounding, this little moon. It's almost like a dolphin is jumping over the moon. And in tarot, specifically in this deck, the moon represents fear of the unknown. It is this kind of, it's like what's on the far side of the moon. Like we can't see what's not illuminated. I don't know what's over there. And so with Knight of Cups, the guidance is, and I know whenever I say this, I can like literally feel eyes rolling, but I'm telling you, this is the secret sauce to life. It is follow your joy. The Knight of Cups is really about identifying and doing what lights you up, regardless of if it feels scary. You may find around this full moon, as Cass and Asha were saying, right, we're coming into like releasing patterns, structures, things that are not serving us. And so as you're in that release, it's like, well, why am I releasing this? Oh, it's not making me happy. Oh, it's not aligned anymore. Oh, it's because, I was afraid of something, so I was doing it the same way. Quitting a job, right? Like I was afraid to leave, so I let this soul-sucking energy have me for freaking 5-10 years. I'm done. And like making that change, or even the way you work, or as Asha was saying, like wake up at 5, wake up at 6, or how like this is interesting, kind of coming through in the physical body. Like maybe you're like, finally am done with caffeine. Like I drink it, but it is just not serving me, or whatever the thing is. Maybe it's like you've done kickboxing or running for a bunch of years and now you're like, my body can't handle this anymore. I want to try a yoga class or start walking or something like that. This is really about not being afraid to do the things that make you happy. And I cannot tell you how many times in sessions, especially with Reiki, where people are like limiting their joy. And it's such a common theme that we do as humans. I think partially we're afraid of if we're happy and then we're not happy, right? It's kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't want that joy to go away. Or what if I do the thing I thought would make me happy and then it's not actually making me happy and now I'm disappointed, or it's not what I thought it would be, or there's or some of us have walls up around our heart and we don't want to like let other people, partners, friends, like in fully because we're afraid for whatever reason that we just, I don't know, we don't want to let them in. So this is really, again, about like identifying what those fears are, even coming into that fearlessness of Leo season. It's like, well, we need to know what the fear is first, right? We can't overcome a fear until we know what that fear is. But the kind of the guidepost here, which is really fun, is that it's not like, hey, what's scary? Go figure that out. It's, hey, what's going to make you happy? And now what is not in alignment with that? And why are you so afraid to change that? That is really where the work is going to be. So your 3 action steps around this full moon are what makes me happy? What is not in alignment with that joy? And why am I afraid to change what's not in alignment? And or why am I afraid of having the thing that I know will make me happy? Those are your kind of journal prompts or meditation prompts or whatever it is that you like to do around full moon. But if nothing else, if you're like, you know what, this full moon feels kind of good for me, like I'm cool. Focus on your joy. Do something fun. Get something fun on the calendar. Hang out with friends. Really like filling up, your well with happy, light, high vibrational energy, because that's always going to make transitions a little bit easier. Before I shift to new moon, would anyone like to add anything?
No, I think that really also aligns with what you were talking about, our inner child too, right? Because it's like when I often think about this, I don't know why, but I think about it a lot, about how, at least for myself, my experience in childhood was like this like overwhelming possibility, right? Like anything's possible. I can be anything, I can manifest anything, like anything can happen for my life. And I think the older we get, the farther we get from that, the more we have to kind of do the work to keep that perspective alive. And the part of us that like, when you're little, I'm talking about like little, where you're like, I'm going to be an astronaut, right? And you're like, I don't even know the logistics of how that career path goes, right? But I like the moon, so astronaut it is, right? And you just like, you'll tell like a random stranger that your mom meets at a cafe, I'm going to be an astronaut, right? Or whatever it is, right? Because you're just like, oh, of course, I chose it. That sounds fun. So why would I not do it? And so I think it's interesting that we had the first pull of like this like inner child, and then this like kind of like fear that is coming up around following that thing that like really makes you happy. I think just ties right back into that to like ask your, for some people, I think it's gonna all connect of like, what was that like childlike joy, that childlike perspective of like anything is possible, I can do anything, why not, right? And then where did that child stop believing, right? Or what made that child scared to fully go for it? That kind of like, I don't know, I've always been just in like my manifestation work fascinated with that specific kind of like evolution, because I think there's so much juice for us when we look at those points where our like inner child stopped believing everything was possible, where inner child started to learn, right? Where eventually the idea came in and someone was like, you got to train a lot to be an astronaut, or you know what, you have this like weird like arrhythmia in your heart, so you're never going to be an astronaut, or what, someone came in and tried to like pop that bubble, and often like there's light years of advancement that can happen from being unafraid to look at it and heal it.
Totally. And I think even the freedom right now, as Asha was saying too, like to let the dreams change. Like maybe you're like, I want to try this. And then you do it and you're like, oh my, no, thank you. Like that can be a hobby. It doesn't have to be a goal or like, you know, whatever it is. So yeah, as you're saying, like coming into that flexibility and like the childlike play. And, you know, even like I'm watching my daughter this morning, very briefly, I got her like these little droppers where you like pull water up from one cup to put it in another cup, whatever. And I was just watching her play. And all of a sudden she put the dropper down and like picked up one of the cups and poured it into the other one. I was like, you know what, babe, that was really work smarter, not harder. Like, I love how you just changed the game. You know, she was like, if the goal is to put this water from this cup into this cup, why am I using this stupid dropper? And I'm sitting there being like, your dexterity and your focus and all this stuff. Like a mom. And she's like, I could just pour this over, you know? And what happened? She spilled it everywhere. And I was like, that's gonna happen. Like, that's okay. You know, like we give kids all of this freedom to try and make mistakes and figure it out and do it their own way. And then we become adults. It's like, nope, follow these rules. But even as Asha was saying last month, we were all talking a lot about, and what you're alluding to, what's coming is like, the rules are gone. Like things are changing. Like we really are doing it in our own way now. And so I think, yeah, coming into that like childlike playfulness and freedom to try and make mistakes and try again, like it feels really lovely. So I'm excited. I'm excited to do this work around that full moon. But yeah, let's see coming towards the end of the month, that Leo season shift, that new moon, like what's coming up around that. So yeah, a lot of that wounding healing, triggered healing, and then coming into that new energy. Okay, Four of Pentacles. So Four of Pentacles, this is in the card, there's a woman sitting and she has these four coins like perfectly stacked on her body. She's holding two of them, one over her heart, one over her belly, and then one's at her third eye crown and one is down at her root. And it's almost as if she were to move an inch, they would all come tumbling down. That is the energy of Four of Pentacles, where we feel pretty stuck. We're like, we can't move. We can't, even with money, Asha, it's funny you're mentioning money, because Four of Pentacles is also about like you may have a certain number in your savings and you're like, but I can't go on the vacation. It's like, then what's the money doing in there? Obviously, we all want to have our safety and our buffer, but it's like, shouldn't our money work for us? Shouldn't our money play for us? Shouldn't our money, like we worked for this, shouldn't we be able to actually enjoy it and invest it in terms of like investing in ourselves, not just investment of like make it grow more to have more. It's like, yeah, that part's important, but it's also, you know, like let's actually work with this energy because that's what money is. And so Four of Pentacles comes around this new moon to remind us to let go a little bit. Again, this is a theme here, like let go, have some fun, like go to the movie, go out to dinner, book the spa day. Like, don't get yourself in a hole here. Obviously, we want to, you know, practice financial literacy, but at the same time, it's your money. Like, you get to choose what you want to do with that. It's your time. You get to do what you want to choose. Like, it's your energy. You get to choose. And I think really, oh, I'm like passionate. You can like, I'm like getting hot. I'm like, it feels very Leo. It's like, I'm the lion. Hear me roar. I don't care if it wakes you up. I don't care if it scares you. And it's not that we want to be inconsiderate of other people, but it's like, it's my roar. If I want to roar, I'm going to roar. And this is very much about like, it feels so liberating in my energy. It's like,
oh, liberation. What did I say?
Exactly. It's very like, pardon my French, but it's like, fuck this. I'm so fucking sick of you guys like keeping me in this box. Like, I'm not a square. I don't fit in here. I'm going to do this however I want to. And so it really feels, yeah, that word liberation, like so free, like you can finally take a deep breath. And this card is really inviting you to see like where you've been constrained, where you've been holding yourself back, both in terms of your goals, but also your resources, time, energy, money, sleep, food, like anything that's like very tangible in life. Where have you been so restrictive to a point where it's not working for you? Obviously, you know, if you're kind of what they were talking about earlier, if you decide, you know, coffee doesn't serve me anymore, that's a choice. That's not a restriction, right? It's like I'm deciding to cut out caffeine because I want to feel better, not because someone on Instagram told me I shouldn't have it. This is about like embracing your own choices for your own life. And again, we got to always be mindful of other people, but it's very there's a sense here to be like, I'm sick of playing by your rules. Again, please make good moral decisions. You don't other people. We don't actively hurt ourselves. Follow the law. I don't want anyone getting in trouble. Like those things are important. But at the same time, this really is, I feel like you were talking about shackles, Asha. It's really like people are like, I'm done. So whether this is on a political scale and they're like, we're not doing this anymore, whether this is in your own life and you're like, you told me I couldn't, but like actually I can, right? To Cass's example, right? You told me I have this weird arrhythmia, but guess what? I found a surgeon who can fix it. And so I'm going to space, right? Like if it's very much, if there's a will, there's a way. And something that I've learned through channeling with that saying, for those of you who are open to this, when I say if there's a will, there's a way, it's not a will as in like something I could do. It is a will as in like, I am willed to do this. I feel this like will, this pull, this passion, this something to do this. So it's not so much about possibility. It is, but it's more about like, we live in an infinite universe. We have been made to think that there are infinite limitations when actually there are infinite possibilities. And so your will, your desire to do something, again, as long as we are not hurting anybody else and we're not getting ourselves into trouble, there is a way to do that. And like, that's what this new moon, at least according to these cards, feels like. It's like, get out of that whatever shackle, prison, containment, whatever it is, and like look at your life and be like, I want this. How am I going to make that happen? Because there is a way to do it. Part one. And then part two, I want you to look at the tangible things in life. So again, like how you're nourishing your body, your money, your time, and your energy, and making sure that you are like working with them wisely. So maybe there's some places that you can like share more, and maybe there's some spaces that you want to reserve, but it's not actually reservation. You're just sharing it more with yourself for yourself. Yeah. So I'm excited for this new moon. I feel like it's really going to be like freeing. But best way to optimize it, once again, let yourself be free. Do that work from the beginning, because that is really going to create the space for you to like choose who you want to be without all of these limitations. And maybe that's why that freeing energy is coming, because we're going to do that work this month to actually be able to be like, nothing is holding me back anymore. Let's do this.
I love that. Sounds like a great month. I mean, I feel like, yeah, it's like a month that we're going to have to like show up, right? But when do we not have to show up, right? You're going to have to like show up and do the work. But yeah, but it feels really exciting. I think, you know, the Uranus shift is, I think a lot of us, even though it's hitting all of us in like different areas of our charts, it's going to feel nice because it's going to feel different too, right? It's like this big energy we've been dealing with for a while that now it's like all of a sudden a certain area of our life that was like feeling chaotic gets to have like some fresh air to breathe in. And I feel like anything like at the start of like a new thing, even if like whatever area of your chart is moving into is going to have its own chaos or whatever, it's almost like you have a renewed battery because you haven't been dealing with it for 8 years. So you're like, okay, like I can handle that a little bit more, which is exciting. And I just love how always I feel like the energy and the astrology, which is why I love talking about this and doing this and like syncing my life to it. I feel like it's setting us up for success if we pay attention to it, right? If we're like, okay, this is what this like kickoff of the month, the full moon, these retrogrades, this is what they're asking me to do. And we show up for those soul assignments and we say, okay, I'm gonna review my structures and I'm gonna, step into whatever might be illuminated on July 4th about an area maybe we haven't been seeing fully clearly, and I'm going to own it and I'm going to look at it and I'm going to use that to inform how I want to move forward. It's once again like we do that work and then we get set up for this beautiful new moon in Leo and get to like really courageously, I'm just like loving the theme of like liberation and freedom and just like allowing ourselves to be, more fully expressed as ourselves. And I love your explanation of that, where there's a will, there's a way, Francis, because that's like also like a quote that like I love a lot, and I always think about it like if there is a desire in your heart, then like it's part of your soul's path, right? And I think, you know, when we remind ourselves of that, like when we have that natural pull, when we have that natural passion, when something keeps coming up for us, then that reminder of there's a will, that's a way, or there's a desire in my heart, it's meant to be part of my path, can help us do the courageous work, can help us, you know, take that leap and do something that, you know, might be scary, but our heart's in it. And that's also like exhilarating, right? I try to remind myself, right? Like anxiety and excitement are also just like little bubbles of like energy, right? And we can like choose how we want to like interpret those like butterflies, you know, before you go on stage. You could, you know, think of them as like, oh, it's because I'm nervous or because you're excited, right? And so I feel like, yeah, I'm excited about this month. Anybody have any final wrap up comments or words of wisdom?
Leo season is like, this is like main character energy, right? So like, where are you not being the main character in your own life because you are overly reliant on gurus, because you're overly reliant on leaders, because you're overly reliant on somebody else to give you all the answers instead of going within to find them from within, right? And this is like the person that, you know, all of us have that Leo, not all of us, a lot of us have that Leo friend that's like gonna go on the dance floor and start dancing even if there's no music. Like they don't care if you like their dancing or not. They're like, I'm here having a good time, right? So it's like that the bravery is about like where, and this is going to be a repeated theme, especially with Pluto in Aquarius, and Pluto's also retrograding in Aquarius, of like where we are continuing to give our power away to other people to make decisions for us, to give us the insight, to give us the answers, when like it's all about going within to find them. And I think the Leo season energy is going to be really pushing us of like not just going within to find the answers, but finally taking action after you've gotten the answers. And that's where the real bravery comes in, right? Of just like, well, now that my intuition has told me this, like now I can't just talk about quitting my job. I actually have to do it, right? I can't just talk about like breaking up with this person. Now it's time to actually be brave and have the conversation. So this is the theme of like, now that we're going to see a lot of these shifts in the beginning of July and it's the middle of July, that's where the bravery element really comes in of just like, well, I'm going to keep tapping into my intuition and keep doing this. Yeah. But like, what is your intuition telling you? And where the bravery is not, yes, the bravery is about tapping into your intuition, but the bravery is really about, because Leo is fire, it's action. It's not just about thinking about what to do. It's about taking the action steps to finally do it. That like stepping through the fear. It's the person who's afraid of heights, and instead of saying, I'm afraid of heights, it's like going on top of a ladder and looking down and like facing your fear. Not that I'm telling people to go on a ladder, right? If they're afraid of heights, but I mean, you get what I'm saying, right? It's just, where can you take your power back by walking through the fear, whatever that fear has been for you? That's the key at the end of the month. Even through the midst of like any of the chaotic changes that you've seen transpire throughout the month, like where can you still take your own power back? And in regards to like the money theme, because that is going to be a theme throughout the month. You know, I posted something, I don't know when you're going to air this episode, but I posted something about this in my stories today on social media of like, you know, we're meant to believe that like we don't have as much power as we do when we do. Like we have power even with how we use our voice, how we use our time, how we use our energy, and more importantly, how we also use our money, where we're putting our money, what we're spending our money on, right? Like you have your power of like where you're putting your money, right? If everybody stops buying the same stock, that's going to have an impact. If everyone stops buying from the same business or the same company, that's going to have an impact. And it's not, again, and I said this on social media on my own page, but like, it's not about, and I'm not telling you where to put your money and where not to put your money. That's not up to me to decide. It's up to you to discern that for yourself. But this is part of the theme of this month of like, where you may think you can't be brave in certain areas, you can. Because like even a little bit, Francis doing a little bit, Cass doing a little bit, me doing a little bit, like that adds up. There's more strength in numbers than one politician or one person or one guru or one person saying like, this is the way you have to do it. That's where like the liberation needs to really come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that also, like what you just said, also just track back to that full moon in Capricorn too. That's like another way you could look at the full moon, right? Capricorn often is like these like old power structures of like, you know, the leader, politician, whatever, right? And being like, where do you need to dismantle that in your life where you're, you know, putting someone above you in the power structure? I love that. And like coming.
That is the Leo energy that like we all can be brave, not just the people we've pedestalized, not just the celebrity who just because they go on stage and they go in front of the camera, right? Like all of us can be brave in our own way.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. I love this.
Let's
I
do
want to
it.
play that like I can't do it because of copyright issues. Sorry guys, but like the like Sarah Bareilles songs. I wanna see you be brave.
Yes.
Sorry guys, if there's no copyright.
I was thinking more like Lion King, you know, like
or the Lion King, I guess. But
that's definitely copyright issues for sure.
Yeah, either way, there's copyright issues there, so you just get my beautiful one-sentence rendition of it. Now you can go play it on your own. Well, thank you, ladies. This was fantastic, and so much juiciness for people to show up to and listen to. And if you're listening to this in the beginning of the month when it's first posted, you know, come back mid-month and, you know, refresh. It's a big month and a lot of energy coming in. So I hope that this serves you all and helps you navigate it with as much grace and ease and expansion as possible. And
liberation.
And I hope we're like liberated lions as we when we meet back in August, just shining gloriously. Much for listening to our July energy report. I hope it brought you so many juicy insights. And I just want to remind you that if you're calling in more support around your spiritual path, I've got lots of resources for you in the links below, including I want to draw special attention to my sacred structure sessions, which as you can tell from the last 2 months, this is the energy right now. It is very aligned. If you need assistance helping you cultivate this super aligned structure that works for you and your life and your energy and your astrology, check it out at the link below. And also, our lovely Francis has a free 30-day journaling challenge, and you have 30 days of journaling prompts for your soul to connect deeper, to receive clarity and guidance on your steps ahead. I think you'll really love that. So again, that's free, and just check it out, the link below. As always, thank you for listening. And if you loved it, please be sure to subscribe and give us a nice review on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this. Until next time, thank you.